Hi, we're Curtis and Loretta. We are going to attempt to have a useful little recording tutorial for you here today. We do have some experience recording. We almost made a vinyl record in the day.
Back in the day.
But this new amazing technology, the cassette disc
cassette tapes.
tape was just coming out, so we said to go with that, and so we proceeded through the years. So.
And into CDs and into downloads, etc. So we're going to talk about making a recording today. I'm a fiscal year 2022 recipient of a Creative Support for Individuals grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board. And that activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board, yay, thanks to a legislative appropriation by the Minnesota State Legislature and by a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. So we are so thankful to the Arts Board and Minnesota and all of you voters. So this grant is going to enable us to make this new CD and also to do 3 CD release concerts in St. Paul, St. James, and New York Mills, and also a virtual concert. And besides that, as part of our grant activities, we're making this series of 3 videos, and this is part 1 today, of what it's like to actually go make a recording, whether you're a musician that's thinking of making one, you've already made one, you want more ideas, or just anybody that's interested. This is the video for you to watch.
There's so many different things to consider, really for different types of musicians and different budgets and such as that. But you want to do the best you can, and it's important to get your music out there. So hopefully we can help you with that.
Yeah, that's right. So in today's video, what we're going to cover is preparing to record, what you need to do. There's a lot of stuff to do before you get to the studio, and how it's different from playing in a studio, how it's different from playing live for people in a concert, and what happens once you get to the studio. And at the end of this video, we'll do one of the songs that's going to be on the CD. So one of the first things you need to do is find a studio where you're going to go do your recording. And for us, word of mouth has been a good way to find a good, reasonably priced studio.
There's a lot of, and remember, when you go into a studio, you're not just, engaging a technician. Really, it ends up being like a psychologist, It's because it's just a whole different thing. If you think of it, as playing in your living room is just like normal with your friends. Doing a concert is like being viewed through binoculars. People are there to see you, but still they can smell the popcorn in the theater, and they can hear you, and they can see you. But when you go to make a recording, then all those other senses, smell, sight, they're all taken away. So it's all focused on by the ears. So you really have to do it right. Things that would be perfectly acceptable playing in a concert, you just can't have them on a recording. So
yeah, things have to be perfect. I like what Curtis said the other day. He said it's like looking at it through a microscope when you're in the studio.
Yeah, and so you really want to choose well, Yes, indeed. And I'm perfect for her is not, so you have to also.
And you have to work with each other.
Her perfect is more perfect than my perfect, so you have to really.
You're going to have your own opinions, your band members and your recording engineer. You'll all have your own opinions. You'll work it out. It's
kind of the politics of the recording studio.
Yeah. So, and also with a studio, you want to find a place that records your type of music. If you're folk music like us, you don't want to be going to some studio that does rock and roll. They won't know how to record your type of music. So find the appropriate one. And my next big point is be well prepared before you go into a studio. Once you get to the studio, you're usually charged per hour. The clock is ticking. And unless you're really rich, like the Beatles were, they would go in and write songs in the studio. Well, you don't want to pay to do all that stuff. You could just do it home and not have to pay for it.
Think of it as calling a taxi, taking a ride across Minneapolis to St. Paul, and deciding where you want to go after you get in the car and ride for a long time while the meter is ticking.
Right.
Yeah. So you want to do your homework. You just really do. It'll make it much more pleasant and effortless and less expensive, this whole experience of recording.
Yeah. So one of the very first things, you find your studio, and you want to know exactly what songs you're going to do when you go in to record. They may be originals you've written or traditional ones, or they're cover songs, which means that they're written by someone else, in which case, if they're not public domain, if they're not old enough, you'll have to pay licensing fees. And we're going to do more on that in a later video. And also ahead of time, you want to decide if you want any guest musicians. Curtis and I are a duo, but we decided we also wanted bass and fiddle on our recording. So find your guest musicians, get them in line, and get them practice tapes to practice with so they can learn your songs.
Personally, our approach has always been to not over orchestrate our recordings. Because it's a recording and people are just going to listen to it and not see you, like I was talking about before. It's cool to have like a fiddle or some things you might not normally have with you, but you don't want to overdo it because you really want to still sound like yourself. It's always a temptation to do all of these things. And then you have to decide how you are going to dissect these songs and practice this at home. It's like, you might want to play the harp and the mandocello together, but it's going to be strange when you're not singing because, it sounds better, more live if you do them together rather than splitting those two things up, and then you might want to put there's just a lot of different ways to compile a song in the studio. So you really have to practice at home. Practice playing without singing a song and make sure it comes out exactly right. There's a lot of preparation, and it'll make it much less expensive and much more enjoyable.
Yeah, when we first started recording years ago, we would just go in and play live in the studio, which doesn't mean that there was a live audience, but it meant that we would just play like we were at a concert. We would play both our instruments and sing all at the same time. And some people still do that, and it's cool. It's very organic, but the other thing is you can't correct anything afterwards. If either one of you makes a mistake with your vocals or instruments, you can't cut it out of the mix. So rather than doing live, the other option, which we're doing, is to lay down tracks. So each instrument or voice has its own track, and then you can correct things within those tracks, and then you mix it all together. Your engineer mixes it together at the end.
Yeah, these days, if we were going to do a live recording, I would prefer to, bring your technicians to a concert hall and record a live concert. I enjoy that sound,
Yeah.
But
yeah, exactly. So what we did in our recording, and it's different for everybody. What we did is Curtis and I each played an instrument on one track at the same time. We were separated in the studio by 20 feet or something, so that our microphones didn't bleed over onto each other. And that means his microphone wouldn't be picking up what I'm playing. Like right now, our voice mics are probably picking up each other's stuff, and then you can't go back and fix things. So we were far apart, but we laid our instruments down. So we were playing together, and you have headphones on, so you can hear each other, and you can hear yourself. And then we would play the instrumental part, and then you go into the control booth with your engineer, and you listen to that and make sure everything is perfect. If there's any notes you want to go back, and if it's just a small mistake, the engineer can go back and splice in. You go back and just play that little part over, and you can splice that in and fix it. And
like Loretta said earlier, you want to, as soon as you can, you want to get some rough recordings to the people you would like to join you on your songs, the fiddler, the whoever you want. But also, you should probably initially, even before that, take one to your recording technician to the studio and ask them for suggestions on how you might want to, what would be the best way to record the specific song.
Yeah, I like that when you say how to dissect it. Yeah. So what we did before we even got to the studio, we rehearsed at home, and on my Mac, we have GarageBand, and that's what we use to practice with. So we have these microphones. We've got 2 vocal mics, 2 instrument mics, and we're going into a USB mixing board, and that's going into the computer. And then I open up GarageBand, and we would play together. We would play our instruments on one track and mainly to practice, but also to get used to that feeling. It's really weird playing a song that you're used to singing on. It's really weird just playing the instrument part and knowing where you are. You can have your music out in front of you, your sheet, well, not sheet music, but we have words and chords, and you can follow along on that, but you have to know where you are and what the arrangement is and everything. So we practiced a lot doing that. And then we would go back, and it's just good practicing with headphones on, too, because we're not used to doing that. And then we would listen to that, and then we would go back and just sing the vocals with those. I would add another track on GarageBand, and we would sing the vocals and listen to that.
We can't emphasize enough, just practice all of these things at home as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly. Practice, practice, practice.
What is our next nugget of wisdom?
Well, yeah, so be sure you're practicing home with headphones, and then so after our instruments, and then we did our vocals separately. whoever did the lead for a song, if it was a song I was doing the lead, I would go out and sing, and then we would listen to that, make sure that was good. You listen to things over and over until you're like, I hate to say it, but you're kind of sick of it after a while, sick of listening to them. And then Curtis would do his vocal, or if he was doing the lead, he'd do first, and then I'd do next. And then when you think it's just perfect, sometimes then you go home and listen to it some more. You have your recording engineer make a bounce for you, either a disc, or he'll send it to you on a Dropbox or something online. And you listen to it again, you say, oh, gee, there's a word that I don't like. I've got to go back and fix that. So it's a lot of listening and going back and fixing things.
By the time you get your CD done, you probably won't want to listen to it for 8 months.
Yeah.
You will have listened to it so much with such intense concentration. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And so we mentioned the guest musicians earlier. And for this recording, we have Sandy Neos, our good friend, doing bass, and our good friend Tom Schaefer doing fiddle. So before we even started recording, we had just some practice tapes for them that we made at home on GarageBand, got them to them. And after we recorded all our parts, now we've got most of our parts recorded for the CD. And so now we're going to get those to Tom, the fiddler. Well, Sandy already did her bass part this week. But then they'll be able to hear exactly how it's going to go, exactly what it's going to be like in the studio.
We even have a lovely cellist from
Yes.
from New York that we actually, through the internet, shipped a couple of songs. And she's going to join us by playing in her studio and sending it back to the cosmos to us.
Yes, we have
indeed.
Sarah Smolin on board cello.
she's
She'll be playing on 2 songs.
A wonderful, famous cellist.
And so that's a whole other thing, too, that in the old days when we first started recording, there was no way you could do that. They'd have to come to town and do the studio, but now you send the, most of the recording engineers use Pro Tools. There are other programs, too, but our recording engineer is sending the Pro Tools files to her via Dropbox, this thing online, so her studio can get
Back when we started, we go, let's work with this guy. He's got like 2 microphones,
Right. That was the old days, yeah. So I think that probably pretty much covers what we're going to talk about today. In the next 2 videos, we're going to discuss mixing, which is, we'll talk about what that is, getting all the parts even and so they all mesh together. And things like copywriting your songs and doing radio promotion and getting photos or artwork done for your CD. If you're making a CD, if you're just doing downloads, you may not need any artwork. But we are going to be doing both a physical CD and downloads and streaming. You also need to get a barcode, and you get it on the download and streaming site. So there's a lot of things to do after you get the whole thing made. And of course, getting copies made. And we're not going through a record company. We're doing this all ourselves. So. And like a lot of people do. So we'll get into
all this later, yeah.
Yeah, those are going to be in the next 2 videos. So today we're going to sign off, and we're going to do one of the songs that'll be on the new CD. We'll be doing it live right now. It's called Beauty of the Song. It's one I wrote.
And remember, whatever you do, don't take your dog into the studio.
This is little Lulu, our dog here.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have any questions or comments about what we've talked about so far, please put comments. I'm going to put this video on Facebook and YouTube, and you can make comments on there or questions, and we'll answer them or talk about your comments in the next video, which will be out in a while. And or you can email us with questions or comments, and our email address is on our website. Our website is curtisandloretta.com. So we're going to play one of the songs from the CD.
We're going to take a little break and set up. We'll be right back. Well, we're Curtis and Loretta. We'll leave you with a song from our new album.
Yeah, and we recorded this at our good friend Doug Lohman's studio in Minneapolis. It's called Armadillo Sound, where we're recording.
We'll play it on the Irish harp and the mandocello, indeed. This is one of Loretta's songs.
It's called Beauty of the Song. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Will you miss me when I'm gone? Will you sometimes sing my songs? Or will they pass on through like hard-working migrants who have done the job and then seem to vanish like the wind? They say vibrations never end once they're sent, and so I pray the words I write are worthy of the ride. All these tools that I forged were gifted to me by and large. I gathered truth from the world, raised it like a flag unfurled. I stitched together words from the pictures that I heard. They say vibrations never end once they're sent, and so I pray the words I write are worthy of the ride. I will miss you when I'm gone, for I love to sing you songs. If my words spoke to you, or somehow they helped you through, please pass that tool along. That's the beauty of the song. They say vibrations never end once they're sent, and so I pray the words I write are worthy of the ride. If my words spoke to you, or somehow they helped you through, please pass that tool along. That's the beauty of the song. That's the beauty of the song. Beauty of